How much does the average Australian save? In this video we will talk about inflation versus wage growth, average savings in Australia, household savings ratio, savings versus debt. Why do Australians save? Do Australians use their savings account? And how to save money? Inflation versus wage growth. One factor that's likely put a dent in Australian household savings is the fact that the nation has not recorded real annual wage growth since the March 2021 quarter, with inflation outpacing wages growth ever since. That means Australian workers have been effectively earning less money. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, has been on a hiking spree since May 2022, lifting the cash rate from an all-time low of 0.1% to an 11-year high of 4.1%. That's likely left borrowers feeling worse off financially. With money proving to be tight for a wide range of Australians, what are we doing with what we have? Are we spending it lavishly, or are we being more conservative and stashing it in our savings accounts? Based on research from numerous entities, it looks like the latter. Average savings in Australia. According to data from NAB, the average Australian had around $34,000 tucked away in a savings account as of late 2022. The bank surveyed more than 2,000 Australians to make its findings. However, the amount of general savings a person held varied significantly across various demographics. In capital cities, the average punter held around $38,000 in savings, while their regional and rural counterparts respectively boasted around $28,500 and nearly $27,000. The amount a person holds in savings was also found to differ between men and women. Men aged between 50 and 64 were found to have the healthiest savings accounts, with an average balance of $106,000, while women of the same age had around $23,000. Household savings ratio. The bank's research also found 73% of Australians were trying to grow their savings. However, 1 in 5 had watched their balance slip over the previous 3 months. Meanwhile, more than half of those surveyed were worried about the rising cost of living, with lower-income households the most anxious. That makes sense given the household savings ratio. The ratio of household income saved to household net disposable income has been slipping lower in recent times. It hit lofty highs of more than 20% in mid-2020. According to the ABS, the rise in household saving was driven by increased household income, coupled with a decline in spending. But those days are behind us. At last count, the household savings ratio was 3.7%, a 15-year low. Savings versus debt. Meanwhile, fewer people appeared to be signing up to large mortgages over the first 3 months of 2023, compared to the same point of 2022. Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, APRA, data shows us that of the new residential mortgage loans written in the March 2023 quarter, 7.5% were to borrowers with debt-to-income (DTI) ratios above 6. That marked a 15.6 percentage point drop on the March 2022 quarter's results. This came off the back of a drop in home lending. There was an 8.5% fall in the value of residential mortgage loans written in the quarter, coming in at around $145 billion worth. That means nearly $10.9 billion of loans written over the first 3 months of the year were to those borrowing more than 6 times their income. Meanwhile, many Australian homeowners are feeling the impact of mortgage stress. Research by AMP Bank found nearly 70% of all mortgage holders are worried about meeting their repayments now and if rates were to keep rising. Looking beyond home loans, Australian credit card debt was at around $18.4 billion in April, according to RBA data. That's 4% higher than its 2022 low of nearly $17.7 billion. Why do Australians save? Despite interest rate pressures, the Australian dream is well and truly living on. A third of Australian savers have been found to be stashing their cash in the hopes of buying a home. That's according to Bank of Queensland. It collected data from more than 10,000 Australians holding one of the banking group's digital savings account. Other top savings goals held by Australians included holidays, 17%, a new car, 7%, and, perhaps most wisely, a rainy day fund, 14%. Age-old goals of getting out of debt, getting married, or getting an education each accounted for between 2 to 3% of savers. The remaining fifth of savers had something else on their mind. Do Australians use their savings account? According to 2,000 Australians surveyed by NAB in February and March, most of us have money tucked away in a high-interest savings account. Interestingly, it's the younger generation that's leading the way when it comes to putting their spare cash in high-interest accounts. More than two-thirds of those aged between 18 and 29 hold their savings in a high-interest account, compared to half of those over 30 years old. So, where do the remaining Australians choose to keep their extra money? Interestingly, 26% keep their savings in cash. Term deposits are a common wealth-building tool, utilized by 29% of those aged over 65 and 7% of those aged 18 to 29. Another 15% use their savings to offset their mortgage. Having a savings account is useful for keeping money in a safe location and accumulating interest. It's also generally a good idea to have at least 3 to 6 months' worth of living expenses in liquid cash in case something unexpected happens, like losing your job or falling ill for a lengthy period. This is called an emergency fund. How to save money. Depending on who you ask, you'll get various answers to the same question: how much should I be saving out of every paycheck? You'll find that most experts will say between 10 to 30%, but this obviously isn't possible for people who barely make enough to get by, are experiencing mounting debts, or have other expenses, like caring for a sick loved one. The first step towards savings is budgeting. Doing a monthly budget of all your expenses can give you a good starting point. From there, you can cut out unnecessary expenses or prioritize the more important ones. You should then move on to clearing debts if you have them. Having money sitting in a savings account might not mean much if you're getting charged through the nose in loan interest. When you do decide to set a savings goal, start small, and work from there. Achieving a realistic goal can give you the confidence to kick on and save bigger amounts over time. Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe to my channel, and like this video for more amazing content.